I've been working as a night nurse at a small rural hospital for over 5 years now. The place is old, with creaking floors and dimly lit corridors that always seem to stretch on forever during the quiet hours of the night. We often share stories about ghosts and strange occurrences, but I've always dismissed them as just that, stories. That is, until one night changed everything. It was a particularly quiet night, around 3 a.m., and I was making my rounds on the 3rd floor, where we keep our long-term care patients. The hallway was eerily silent, save for the soft hum of the fluorescent lights above. As I approached the end of the corridor, I suddenly noticed a figure sitting on a bench near the large window at the very end. She was an older woman, frail, with wispy gray hair and an old-fashioned hospital gown that looked like it belonged to a different era. I stood there, frozen, unable to move, unable to comprehend what I had just seen. The next morning, I shared my experience with one of the older nurses. Her face grew pale as she listened. "You saw her, didn't you?" she whispered. "The old woman. She was a patient here back in the 1950s. She died in that hallway, waiting for her family to visit. They never came. People have seen her sitting there ever since." I've been a security guard at this old factory for a few months now. The factory, once a bustling place filled with workers and machines, has been shut down for years and is now just a storage warehouse. It's a massive building with towering shelves, dark corners, and long empty corridors that seem to go on forever. Working the night shift here is unnerving enough without the stories I've heard from the other guards. Stories about strange noises, lights flickering for no reason, and a cold, oppressive feeling that creeps up on you when you least expect it. One cold winter night, I was making my rounds as usual. The only sounds were my own footsteps echoing off the concrete walls and the occasional creak of metal as the building settled. As I turned a corner into one of the longer corridors, I suddenly heard it, a second pair of footsteps, perfectly in sync with mine. Panic began to rise in me, and I broke into a run, my heavy boots slapping against the concrete floor. The footsteps behind me grew louder, more frantic, until they were almost deafening. I dashed down the corridor, skidding around corners, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Finally, I reached the security office, slammed the door shut behind me, and locked it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I played the footage over and over, but the shadowy figure was there every time, stalking me through the factory. I didn't finish my shift that night. Instead, I walked out of the factory, never to return. I quit the next morning, leaving that old haunted place behind. But the memory of that shadowy figure has haunted me ever since. I've been working the graveyard shift at this 24-hour convenience store for over a year now. The store is located on a lonely stretch of highway, miles from the nearest town. The nights are long and quiet, with only the occasional trucker stopping in for a cup of coffee or a snack. I've never minded the solitude, until strange things started happening during my shifts. At first, it was small things that were easy to dismiss. A can falling off a shelf without explanation, the door chime ringing when no one had entered, or the unsettling feeling that I was being watched when the store was empty. I brushed it off as my imagination, a product of too many late nights and not enough sleep. When he finally turned to look at me, I felt my blood run cold. His face was ghostly white, his eyes hollow, dark circles beneath them like he hadn't slept in years. And then, just like that, he vanished, right in front of me. Shaken, I tried to rationalize what had happened, but I couldn't. The man's face, so pale and hollow, haunted my thoughts. Over the next few nights, I started seeing him again, always in the same spot, at the end of the aisle, standing still and silent. Each time, he would vanish before I could get close. When I mentioned it to one of the regulars, he told me something chilling. This place used to be a diner, years ago, before the store was built. There was a fire one night, and a few people died, including a regular customer who always sat in the same spot. They say his spirit still haunts this place, and now I believe it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated when a new video comes out.